we have a bot called StartupQ8 as well, and we don't have a lot of visitors. So please just go there, check what you're writing. Actually, starting from a skill, we're going to do something crazy. 10 people writing the blog, everyone, like, so we're going to have many posts, like last month, so we didn't have posts, but starting from next year, it's going to be really vibrant. So you can have like comments or like, so you can make it more active. And also please follow us on Twitter and Instagram and just tell us what you think or give us some feedback about the whole thing. And yeah. So yeah, good night. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So I saw you in Dubai and then you came back to Kuwait and now you're flying again to Dubai. And so is everything okay right now?
Yeah, just I have a board meeting tomorrow, and we moved the company out of Kuwait to Cayman Islands company. And so we're having the board meeting in Dubai. So
Okay.
Our Branch Capital is headquartered. There are new investors. We have to go there for the meetings.
I found out there was an accident, like that happened before you came here.
Yeah, I wasn't in the car. I wasn't there, but I
Okay.
see it.
Okay, so let's start by giving us some like background about yourself, like before Teshkeel.
There was no life before Teshkeel.
Come on.
There was vacations and free time. And
You're a doctor with 2 masters before Teshkeel. So tell us about this.
My story with Teshkeel really started when I was a child. I've always been an avid reader. Reading was my fix. It was my drug. I always had books with me. And actually, one time when I was 8 or 9, I got upset with my parents, and I was going to. Can you hear me? Is this working? It's working.
Yeah.
And I was going to, run away from home, so I took a backpack full of books and crossed the street, sat down to read. I told my parents when I grew up I was going to be a writer, and they said that's a great hobby. Don't think about doing it for work, which was good advice. So I was always I always did what I was supposed to. Went to school, did the master's degree, I did 2 master's degrees, did the doctorate, and I came back, I lectured at the medical school here. But something was missing, that part, because I'd always written, always on the side, I tried different kinds of things. And then so I trained, I did my doctorate in clinical psychology, I'm licensed to practice in New York State. But I decided that what I wanted to do is, because when you work as a psychologist, a lot of your work has to do with perception, how somebody sees you, how you see yourself. And somewhere in the middle, you do your work as a psychologist. So for me, I wasn't happy with how Islam saw the West. I wasn't happy with how the West saw Islam. But more important for my kids, I wasn't happy with how Muslims saw themselves. And so I decided to put my training as a psychologist to treat the image of how Muslims see themselves, which would hopefully spill over to how we're seen by others. But my father thought I went crazy because I came home just 10 years ago now, and after all these degrees, I said, now I'm going to do comic books.
So, what did they do at that time?
I told you being a psychologist would make you go crazy. But it's been 10 years. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, but how did you deal with your parents? Like, I have a problem with this right now, actually.
Yeah. I never quit my day job. So I lectured at the medical school. There was that income. There was no kind of struggling, At that point I had 3 kids, now I had 5. So I wasn't going to go down the starving artist route.
It's not funny.
Sorry?
To have 5 kids.
It's not funny at all. Let me make it. They're actually 5 boys.
Yeah. Say the worst.
Yeah. Actually, fun story. So my boys love what I do. Superheroes. What boy wouldn't? And one of them, Faisal, when he was 6 or 7, I just raised my second round of finance from Unicorn Investment Bank in Bahrain. So I'm on the phone, Unicorn said this, I don't know Unicorn said that, I'm going to have dinner with Unicorn later, and I hang up, and Faisal with their big brown eyes said, Baba, I said, what? You talk to unicorns too? But that was life before Teshkeel. I was interested in entrepreneurship. I had tried it a couple of times. Once, in my mid-20s, I wrote and illustrated a series of children's books that I wrote and illustrated, and won an award from UNESCO. Before winning the award, I tried to find a publisher in the Middle East, and the only publishers I found were ones that wanted to pay me a few hundred KD and own the IP. And I didn't understand much, but I knew that my IP wasn't for sale. And so I became the first kids book in the world, I think, that was financed through a real estate ad. So I got funded, we got 1,000 KD for an ad, and I took that money and I learned the business, the publishing, distribution, the pricing, and lost my shirt if I counted, even if I was to pay myself $1 an hour, it still would have been a lost. I learned the business. And then in 2000, in 1999, I raised money with a couple of my friends for a company called Amwal in Bahrain. And that was Ameritrade's partner in the region. And then after we raised the financing, we were told by Ameritrade, they said, we run the B2B side of our business, for all of North America with four people, there's no way you need 3 for the Middle East. And back then, my friends, one was a Harvard MBA, one was a lawyer educated at Duke working away in case. Then there was the master's level psychologist. So it's pretty easy who had to go. So I leveraged that and went to business school. Went to Columbia for business school, and that's where I kind of started thinking about the beginnings of the Islamic market, and the thinking that eventually became the 99.
Okay, so when you first started, how big was Teshkeel, and how big is it right now? Like,
so when I started, it was just me, just an idea in a cab, and I was going on a pilgrimage every Kuwaiti makes once a year from Edgware Road to Harrods in a taxi cab. And in that cab, I had the idea, and when I had the idea, I shared it with my mom and my sister. They were in the cab with me. My sister liked it, and I started. I wrote the first few stories, did the business plan, did the financials, and raised money. And I raised around 2 million Kuwaiti dinars within a few months.
before you start?
Before I started, yeah. So the first $1 million came from my classmates in business school. So that's why I had money from the US and Mexico and China, is because they were my friends in business school.
So you didn't actually raise from Kuwait in the beginning? You didn't start from Kuwait? Like
I did. So what happened is so the first $1 million came from my classmates, and then the rest of the money came from Kuwait mostly.
Okay.
Bayan Investment Company, commercial bank in Kuwait, Hamid Shire Company, some high net worth individuals. And but if I'm honest, I tell you that around 75% of the money you can connect back to people who knew me at some stage of growing up. So whether it's school, high school, or yes, it's this bank, this whatever, but people who knew me in the past. Our second and third round of finance, so I raised $15 million in the second round and $15 million in the third round. Those came from sources who didn't know me. By then we had built the business. So
okay.
I'd say we have around probably now around 800 to 900 people working on the project. 500 in the studio in India. In Kuwait I have 20. I mean it's very, and the only reason I'm here is because my mom and dad live here.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the reality, because it's not exactly the media capital of the world.
So you have 20 employees, Kuwaiti employees?
No.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, do you have any Kuwaiti employees?
I don't think so. I think the theme park does. We have a theme park, the 99 Village theme park in Jahra.
Yeah.
It's a joint venture with United Tourism. Now the company's called. It's what's the company called? I'm blanking. They're one of our investors. But basically, they have Shah Park, they have Jahra Park, they have one Sabahia.
Yeah.
Okay. It was called United Real Estate something or the other. They changed it. المهم الأسواق close. But basically, so there are employees there. Because what we have, like my main person actually is from Hong Kong, and I met him in Bahrain, and then the rest are basically the best at what they do. So our writers for the TV show are the writers of Batman and Star Wars and Ben 10. Just top tier Western talent.
Yeah, so.
Our co-producing partner that does the pre and post production is Endemol in the UK. They're the largest TV production company in the world. So because from the beginning I told my investors that the 99 could not be another made in fifth world country production. This was going to be Superman, or it wasn't worth my time or their money. So from the very beginning the focus was not on where's this guy from, because I'm not a government, right? And I at the end wanted to create the best product I can.
Yeah.
And so I was fortunate enough to be able to get the right backing. And
was this true? I think we should fix it someone, because actually, okay, I'm not comparing Teshkeel to your Teshkeel, but I had the same problem when I first started my company, and I was looking for a designer in Kuwait, I didn't find anything. I was looking for a programmer, I didn't find anything. So I ended up now with 3 Spanish partners, Spanish co-founder and 2 Spanish employees. So now we are okay, I'm in Kuwait, same as you, just because of my parents, but I'm also but how can we fix this, the long term? We need to pass, you need to pass your experience to another generation, so that then they can build their own startup, and then the cycle starts moving.
When I was down in New York, and my mother was worried I wasn't going to come back, and so one of my brothers called me and said, Mom was worried. You can go from being a small fish in a big sea to being a big fish in a small sea here in Kuwait. And I said, that's great, but what if I end up being the dumb fish in the desert? Then what? For me, I think, if you're looking, if you're passionate about what you're doing and you're looking for people to mentor you, I was very fortunate. My mentors include Fadi Ghandour, who's now on my board, who's the entrepreneur in the region, pretty much. PRMX founder. He supported me for 7 years. He invested last year. But up until that point, it wasn't. He had no benefit. It was
Just being nice.
he was giving his time.
Yeah.
He was giving his time. And actually, he sent me to Abraj in 2004 to get investment. Adif turned me down. The CEO turned me down then because they didn't do startups.
Yeah.
And then in 2007, I went back to them and they turned me down again because it was too late. I already had a valuation from Unicorn. And then 2010, I had a big problem because I had a big family who was going to put in $8 million out of 15 I'm raising. They negotiated valuation, everything's set, and then they decided last minute they weren't putting money in. And I thought, oh my God, now what? And so I took a gamble. I was at a World Economic Forum meeting, which I get to go to for free because of the awards I've won from them. And I saw Adif with his friends chatting, and I went up to him and said, hey Adif, I heard you came here on a private airplane, is it true? And he said, yes, why? I said, this may be inappropriate, but can I fly back with you? And he said, you don't live in Dubai? I said, I live in Kuwait, it's an hour away, I'll figure it out. So I said, okay, come. So I had him and his team on a private plane. They had nowhere to go without parachute, and I pitched them. and raised around 12 of the 15 I raised came from them. So, yeah, in terms of kind of finding, I think that there's this, we have this kind of thinking that we're limited by the people around us. We're not. I mean, the world is different now.
Yeah, that's what I agree.
When I started writing, I write in English, by the way. Maybe my accent told you that, but I write in English, and so when I was first writing in Kuwait, I was writing in the Kuwait Times, and my friends would make fun of me and say, who are you writing for? The drivers and the cooks? Ha ha ha. But they were right, because before the internet, who was hearing my voice? Right? That changed everything. So I think if you'll be able to find, like your friend from Hong Kong, you'll be able to find people and resources on that side of it. But I think what's really missing, I think Qatar and Jordan have taken the lead, but the angel investment networks that they've been building have been really remarkable. Really remarkable.
So can you take us through the challenges? Okay, so I started really small, as you said, with a small team, and then now you started from New York, I think, and Kuwait.
Well, it was. Yeah, I'm still between Kuwait and New York, but Kuwait is where the company was a Kuwaiti company until 2 years ago we moved it offshore to the Cayman Islands.
Okay. So how did you grow to this huge company, and now the 99 is showing the most TV channels in the whole world. So
yeah.
What was that the challenges, and how was that responsibility that you're carrying?
The challenges were a lot, and they're challenges every day. They don't go away. They're just different. It's one of those the monster you cut off one head and 3 heads come up. But the first challenge was myself, because I was worried that if I started raising money for this and failed 10 years ago, I'd be known as the crazy guy that tried. And so for me that was kind of, I was worried about that. And then when I raised the money, then the challenge was, oh my God, I have the money, now what? I've never done this before. I've never done comic books, I've never done animation. And so you have to hire the right team. Now, one of the problems I had initially with my first round of investors is they wanted me to take more money. First, you had to find investors that valued you as a person, and give you sweat equity for what you're doing, right? Because you don't want to create a company and become an employee in that company. Why take the risk if there's no reward, right? So that was a challenge, because the biggest due diligence question was, how much money is your dad putting in? Why is that relevant? So that's the other challenge. The other challenge was kind of dealing with the structure and stuff like that. I mean, there's some of them were very difficult. And so beyond that, so now we have the money. The investors wanted me to take 5 million dinars in the first round. I wanted 1 million.
So they were pushing you to take more.
They wanted to take more and then they would control it, and I didn't want that. So in the end, I settled for 2.
2 million.
2 million. I didn't want 2, but I took 2.
Okay.
Now, when you take money you don't need, what happens is that there's a push to invest it in stuff you don't want to do.
Exactly.
And so I had to go through that. That was a challenge with the board, because I didn't want to put it in Kuwaiti stocks or Kuwaiti real estate or whatever. And thank God I got my way, but it was very uncomfortable, the getting there. So by round two, we had already been banned with Saudi. The 99 was stopped with Saudi. And then we got unbanned, and then we got rebanned, now we're kind of banned. It's kind of weird. But that happened, and I was like, oh my God, this is the only market in the region that has people and money. Right? There's places like here that have money and no people, and then places like Egypt that have people and no money. And so now what? And so the challenge was, how do you repackage this to kind of have an eye on the outside markets? And so we were able to meet that. And then we had a challenge. So we got Saudi Finance actually playing on NBC now. We solved that problem. And the way I solved it was from raising money from an Islamic investment bank. Now that opened door for Saudi, but it closed the windows on our fingers in America. Because when President Obama spoke about the 99 in the speech he gave, he called it the most innovative response to his Cairo speech. And he spent a couple minutes talking about the 99. which raised our profile to the whole world. But the world also includes people who don't like Islam very much.
Yeah.
And so the attacks, so 6 months after the Obama shout-out, we became an issue in the congressional elections of the United States. Obama's Muslim and this proves it. He's trying to brainwash your kids as Sharia superheroes. Anybody watching the 999 become radicalized, or my favorite was this one. We can't let those Muslims brainwash our children like the Mexicans did with Dora the Explorer. Right? And so what happened is we were supposed to launch in the US as our first market. We just launched it as our 70th market last week, 2 weeks ago. Supposed to be our first market. Supposed to come out in October 2010. And then the broadcasts are delaying and delaying. And for 2-3 years now. They bought the rights for 5 years. And I didn't know what to do. And so basically, I thought they were being stupid. Then a year ago, we there's a Discovery Network who also bought our show, put out a show called All American Muslim, which was a reality TV show, 5 episodes, each one about a different Muslim family living in Michigan. She's married to a non-Muslim and her parents are giving her hell, he's a policeman, just 5 normal human stories. So the same people who attacked us, attacked them. And by the way, they're the same people who Anders Breivik quotes in his manifesto when he did the killings in Norway.
No.
And two of the advertisers in that show pulled their money from the show because of these people attacking. And so our broadcaster thought, see, if we had put the show on, the same thing would happen to us. Thank God we did put it on. So we got our online rights back in November, and we launched in December in the US on Netflix.
Okay, nice. So, like, you're trying to do like good for like Islam as like a value. You know, you're delivering a value, and at the same time you're trying to do the business.
Yes.
Like, is there like other companies that did it successfully before? So, like, is this a challenge, or there is a conflict for like the shareholders or the investors?
Well, I mean, the shareholders knew from day one what they were getting involved with, and there was no kind of hidden agenda. I mean, I was very clear. I knew what I wanted, and I explained it to them from the beginning, and they chose to invest, right? So, but it's a social entrepreneurial venture, and I'm part of a group at the World Economic Forum that's social entrepreneurs, and there's quite a few very interesting projects that are being done. Media, not so much, but other stuff, where there's a double bottom line. So it's not just about a financial return; it's also about
values.
Yeah, doing well by doing good.
Yeah. Okay. Another question.
Yeah, I have a question about your very first started finding your first investor, that $1 million that you wanted to do. What did you have at the time going in front of the first investor, and how much was your company worth at the time to even speak to them to get that $1 million? And if I may ask the same question, you don't have to answer if you want. How much ownership did you claim after the first investor? Because I think that will set a better basis on your first and future investments.
I can answer the question in generalities. So I can tell you this. I can tell you that my plan was that after 3 to 4 rounds of financing, I would own between 20 and 40% of the company. Was my plan. I can tell you now, after 3 rounds of financing, I'm in that range. Okay, because the second round was 2007, huge valuation, it was 4 times the valuation of the first round, and that helped. 2010, the valuation wasn't as high because the markets had tanked, right? So, so I was able to do that. I was able to, get a higher percentage, and then I was diluted down. But the way I did that is I wouldn't let my investors dictate the terms. So I would always find a lead investor outside, negotiate with them, and then let the existing investors put their money in first if they want. Because as an entrepreneur, obviously the investor's interest is to buy the share as cheap as possible, and as an entrepreneur, you want it as high as possible so you can retain more ownership. Right? So the way I dealt with that conflict is dealing with an outside investor each time. So it was Unicorn round 2, it was Abraj round 3. In terms of what I had for the first 2 million KD, I had nothing, but my ideas, some sketches, if you saw them, you'd laugh. Really, I mean, I can't draw, and my circles look like triangles. So but that's what I had: some conceptions and some story ideas, and just
Just an idea.
Just a pitch. Just like I share with them kind of the pitch was this. I said, if you look at the superheroes that exist in the world today, this is 10 years ago, they were all based on Judeo-Christian archetypes. So like the prophets, for example, all the superheroes are missing parents. Superman's parents died on Krypton. Batman's parents died when he's 6. Spider-Man is raised by his uncle. And all of them have a message delivered from above through a messenger. The prophets get it from God through Gabriel. But Peter Parker's taking a photograph and the spider comes in from above and gives him his message through a bite. It's a metaphor for Gabriel coming down. Superman is not only sent from the heavens, or Krypton, by his parents to new parents in a little ship, the story of Moses on the Nile, but you hear the voice of his father saying to earth, I have sent to you my only son. as the voice of God in the Bible about Jesus, right? So I did a lot of thinking, developed a pitch like that, and then told them basically nobody has done this with our culture. Taking storylines, secularizing them, and creating stories and values that we share with the rest of humanity. Not about how we're different and special, about how we're the same and we're human. And that was my pitch. And so I found people who were like, wow, this is something interesting, we want to get involved. But the $1 million I got, that was like 10 people that gave it to me together. That wasn't like one person with $1 million. They were my classmates.
But
And
how much shares you had after that? Like when you came in, like was it like 20%, 40% at the start, and they were the 60%? They let you control the or lead the way?
The issue. So I mean, again, like I'm going to answer in generality. I'm not going to give the exact percentage, but it was in the range of 20 to 40. Okay, and even now, after the 3 rounds, it's in the range of 20 to 40. Okay, so in terms of I'm sorry, another part of that question.
It's just that I want to know, is that the investment they come in, they buy their power into the company.
See, this is the issue. This is the issue in Kuwait, and especially ones that have Sharia as the source of the companies, right? Because there's only one class of shares in Kuwait, which becomes an issue. In the States, there are different classes of shares. So the board can own 10% of the company, but because they put cash in, they control the entrepreneur until there's an exit or whatever, and then khalas. Here, you can't do that. Here, if you put 10% of the money, then you own 10% of the company, and the entrepreneur is 90% now. So that's not fair either. The investors put cash to make sure it's protected. So there are structures that you can do. What we did is we created another company that I created, that we gave a value to, and then Teshkeel bought that company, not in cash but in kind, and that's how I got my shares in the joint new company. But there are different structures you can go. You have to find a roundabout way to do it, but you can find it.
Laurent?
What is the one thing that you did that you wish that you hadn't done differently?
Just one?
Your highest, let's say. God, I wish I had never done that.
You know, in hindsight, part of the pressure on taking that extra money in round one, I felt pressure to get involved. I started to second guess the 99 and what the potential was. And we bought licenses for Marvel in Arabic and DC Comics in Arabic and Archie in Arabic. In retrospect, we shouldn't have done that because it took our eyes off of focusing on what we had, and we lost a lot of money doing that. We thought we were a publishing company. We weren't. You know, we got a company in Egypt, had 50 employees there, started producing comics that nobody read. You know, Spider-Man. Our best month, we had Spider-Man sold 6,000 copies, which is like nothing. Doesn't even make back the price of paper. So that's something that I wish that I didn't have the distraction of the extra money, because I always raised the money that I needed for the next few years because I wanted to prove something, and what I wanted to prove was we could create content from the region based on our values and sell it to the world. And I didn't want to do that by throwing a lot of money at it because money makes you lazy.
Najib?
Right. I think it would be useful for entrepreneurs to learn how much money did you return back to investors. I'm assuming it's nil. Or how did you manage to raise multiple rounds despite having not returned anything to your investors?
So what we returned to the investors was higher valuations each time, and so that's what we returned. It wasn't we were building a brand that can be leveraged into all kinds of things, but that's what we were building. And so and the exits for a company like mine typically would be a backward integration into a content production house or a Disney or an NBC or whatever would buy you. That's the goal. Now being able to raise the capital, the first round. It was people had money and things were starting to boom, and so it was a bit easier sell the first time. The second time, we got blindsided because we spent months negotiating with an entity in Dubai through Unicorn, and it became very clear that they were just studying us. And so I put my foot down and I said, okay, range of share price, or this is over, and it was over. And so Unicorn turned around and said, okay, we'll buy the equity. But instead of raising the 25 I wanted, we're going to give you 15. So we took it. It was on the table. We took it to focus on the business. The Abrar story I told you, that's literally how it happened. Every time we had something more to show. Like when it came to this latest round, we had season 1 done. We had sold it to an American broadcaster, unheard of. Had to check out companies in the States. It's not easy to get on US TV. So we had stuff to show that this has the potential financially, but for sure it's made a dent on perception of the culture and region. So,
Okay, we have a question. Yes?
So each round of investment, did you find a way to overcome the lack of different classes of shares with preferred stock? Did you overcome this every round with some way of some round?
it was only, for me, it was only important the first round, just make sure, because now I have shares, hali. Right, so now I just go through the dilution like anybody else would. I'm not hit any harder. And we get, and as management, we get shares, going forward. But each time is different. So we had an Islamic structure, then Abraj took us to the Cayman Islands, and I went cross-eyed looking at the legal paperwork that had to do with how we're going to be Islamic in the Cayman Islands. I think now we bought metals or copper. I don't know what we did, but it's I mean, as long as kind of you keep it.
Buy and sell operations.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's. I don't know if I answered your question, but.
It's fine. It's just that sometimes I'm a seed stage investor, and I feel cheated when, say, a Series B or Series B investor comes along and he puts in the same amount of money.
He gets more, yeah. It's and I can tell you with my investors that hasn't happened, but the thing is, in that it can happen, right? Because at the end of the day, when somebody comes in and the company is not doing what it should, and they're saying, okay, I'll give you the money, but here are my terms, right? You don't have to take the money.
It almost always happens.
I know.
Next round, usually, the latest round will always have a better term sheet.
Better term sheet to the new investor, but not to the existing ones.
Yeah, for the new investor. So,
Okay. Wait.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Outside, you might have a Class A share that is worth making a Class
From
B.
here and then more than Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Naif, did you planning to make the 99 Hero maybe movie or something as a TV series or something like that?
So the TV series is not out. It's not out in 70 countries. It's out. It's on NBC3 here. It's on Netflix in America. It's in South Africa, South America, Australia. It's on Cartoon Network in Asia. It launches at the end of this month in Pakistan on GeoTV in Urdu.
Okay.
So it's out. And now we just got financed for season 2 of the animation.
Okay, what about a movie like the Marvel,
Sure.
Superman, Spider-Man, and this stuff?
We'd love to do that. Everything we've done with a partner. So if the right movie studio approaches us to do that, we would love to do it. Just that I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't take my investors' money to do that because everything we've done from the comic books, the theme park, the TV show is not stuff I had experience in. So we teamed up with people who knew more than I did. And we knew very early on this is what we excel at is the ability to tell stories that the world wants to watch and read. That's what we can do. Anything you want to do with us, we'll partner. So for example, we have the application out on iTunes, the 99 Comics app, which has all our comic books on it. We didn't develop that software. We work with somebody who does that stuff. So if somebody who does movies approaches us, we'd love to do it. But we haven't done anything else. I just chat about it.
So you will publish, sorry for interrupting, so you will publish these stories in Arabic language?
Yes, they're out in Arabic. They're out in 12 languages: Turkish, Arabic, Indonesian, Chinese on mobile phones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, when you first came out with this innovative concept, or when you went and approached the financials, were you turned down initially?
So, I turned down people, to be honest. And I turned down people because I was looking for an investor to value who I was to the project. Because typically startups in the region, they have a lot of cash and a board and they hire a CEO, which is great, but that's not really a startup, right? So so it was hard to find people who actually gave value to me, right? So only if I put money, your father puts, everyone do it. So it took a while to find people who kind of got it. Now, did I get turned down? Yeah, I got turned down by some investors in all 3 rounds, even the latest round, even with all the publicity and all that. It's not like I can go in and just get money like that. I have to invite myself on airplanes.
Okay, question.
Dr. Naif, what did you have to prove to Abraj? And what did you have when you had the meeting with them to show them? And what has changed in terms of corporate governance and your vision after getting that investment?
So Abraj the 3rd time, not the first 2 times.
No, okay.
So you talk about when I actually got the money when I had to show them, not when I got
Your
turned
first
down.
round of investment was from Abraj?
No, they turned me down in 04 and 07.
Okay, well, who was your first?
First round was Commercial Bank Kuwait, Bayan Investment Company.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you had something. You had more than one thing, and you got that That's considered a late stage investment, right?
No, those were first round.
No, it
Right.
means Abraj
Abraj was late, it was third round.
Sure. What has changed after Abraj?
After Abraj, so we got the financing to do season 2 of the animation.
Sure.
And since then, so when Abraj came in, we had only sold it in the US, which is the biggest market. But since then, we're out in 70 countries now.
I think his question is like in terms of like corporate governance or like this, like the culture or like does anything change?
I mean, not really. I mean, Unicorn were pretty good about what they did, and now Abraj, like, I'm going to more of my board meetings in Dubai, 4 times a year, and my board is amazing. I have Fadi Ghandour on my board. I have Bedr Jaffer on my board for Crescent Petroleum. So that's just yeah. I mean, and they're both board members of Abraj. So they're taking it pretty seriously. But I have 2 Abraj board members on my board, so I mean, a lot of doors get opened through them. Now I have like one. I sent them a long email actually last week. I said, listen, there's this entity I've been trying to get close to. I've been able to network my way to like 6 VPs, but I can't get to the top guy. You're gonna have to drop in with me, and Adam's gonna come back to London and hopefully do that for me. So that kind of stuff.
My neck.
Your neck?
Okay.
You were in that car accident.
Dr. Naif, the concept that you came up with is quite very unique. I'm just wondering what sort of considerations you had for the intellectual property across all these territories that you mentioned.
So, yeah, I mean, let me tell you an intellectual property story first. You know the store Barroui in the Avenues? So Barroui spent over $1 million investing in creating the launch and the logo and all this stuff. Within 6 months, the Barroui school opened in Sabah Salim. Same logo, same color, same name. Had nothing to do with Barroui. So how's that for intellectual protection? So intellectual property protection. But basically, one of the first things we did is, I registered in the Library of Congress, which costs like $20. Doesn't cost anything not a trademark, but
an Arabic.
Sorry?
An Arabic.
Yeah, copyright. And then we hired lawyers. And then we hired lawyers. Basically, we're protected everywhere now. And we have a company in New York that owns the IP. So our company, Teshkeel in New York, owns the IP, not Teshkeel here or the Cayman Islands. And we did it there because there's certain protections that comes to you as an IP owned in the U.S. So, but we're protected pretty much everywhere.
Question. In a region where there's no real value for IP, or they don't respect IP very much.
That's the only thing they don't respect here, right?
Among them, IP. How did you manage to put a value on it? For example, in the first round, I'm sure that part of it was sweat equity and part was for the IP.
Well, it was. I mean, if the investors are honest with themselves, and I'm honest with myself, it was mostly the sweat equity I got was for the sweat I was going to be sweating. I mean, this is something that, because at that point the IP there was an idea, but there wasn't anything to be created, and it was their money that was going to be creating it, but it was my thought. So.
So to rephrase, what's your advice for someone who has an actual, let's say, technology project with an IP, and whenever he goes to someone, they think, okay, I'll just copy the idea and hire someone to do it.
Yeah.
What's the best way to tackle the situation?
Just don't let that stop you, because it's about the execution. It's not about any ideas are out there, and don't let that be the reason why you don't go out trying to raise money. If it happens, it happens. You continue and you learn from it and you'll do it differently. But don't let that be the reason that you don't take the step.
Okay, thanks. Question?
That answered my question.
Okay. Yes.
Did you thought of doing a crossover with DC?
Funny you should ask that, because there is a crossover that came out that has the 99 with the Justice League of America. 6 issues came out. The story started off with distrust. In fact, Superman punches one of my characters in book 2. And then they realized that it's actually the bad guys from both universes causing the distrust. And it moved over to trust with them fighting keep the shoulder together. Those books are available, 4 of them right now are available in Arabic and English on the 99 Comics app on iTunes. And then the issue 3 and 4 I think sold out in America.
So how did you manage to get like a deal with Marvel?
So the deal with DC was this. So Paul Levitz, who was the CEO of DC Comics, a good friend of mine, I got to know him. We bought the rights for DC Comics in Arabic. So whenever I went to New York, I had lunch with him, whatever. And I write essays that are published in the States, and he reads my essays, and so he likes to sit down and talk about them and stuff. And so when Obama was inaugurated on January 20th, 2009, Marvel put out an issue of Spider-Man with Obama on the cover with Spider-Man. Got a lot of press, sold 300,000 copies, and it was a signal to the entire world that Obama likes comic books. DC didn't know that, I didn't know that, but now we knew. So I said to Paul, I said, listen, Marvel beat you guys, they were first, but I can help you implement the president's vision. He said, how? I said, well, there's a rumor that the president's going to be reaching out to the Muslim world. This became the Cairo speech. But no one knew it was Cairo yet, there was just rumors in the press. I said, how about when he does that, we announced that 99 are going to reach right back to Batman and Superman. He loved it. So we negotiated a deal, it was a very fair deal, books came out, and that led to President Obama talking about the 99 in a speech he gave. Because he called it the most innovative response to his Cairo speech, because he reached out to the Muslim world, and in return, the 99 reached right back out to Batman and Superman.
Yeah, Dr. Naif, when you moved out your company out of Kuwait, why did you choose the Cayman Islands specifically?
Abroad chose that. Abroad said this is the place.
Were there any reasons behind that decision?
Well, it was mostly to get out of Kuwait.
I have a question related to this. It's like, how do you manage your life between two cities, like managing also the business like in Kuwait and New York?
It's nutty. It's nutty. It's a little bit crazy. But you do what you have to do. The writing team is in California. The voices are done in Toronto. The Arabic voices are done in Egypt. The pre and post productions in the UK. The productions in India. So I'm not the person that does that. I have somebody in the UK who does that.
Okay.
Most of my job is basically strategy, big picture on the creative, and then raising money for each successive show. But it's the traveling. It can beat you down.
But I mean, it's like now, like the location is becoming irrelevant. Don't you think so? Don't think so? Like location is becoming irrelevant. Like whatever you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I don't think. As long as you have your laptop and a connection, you can pretty much do it wherever you are. And in New York, to be honest, a lot of time, New York's the only place in the world where I actually go and I stay for weeks and months at a time, and just kind of focus on what I want to do. I can do stuff there that I can't here. Even though it's all crazy and bustling, I'm able to do what I need to do.
Okay.
When you started the company, it was your idea. So you mentioned you weren't good at drawing, but you had the idea of what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so as the company grew, how did your role change? Do you still actually go and are you part of the creative process? You just mentioned that you don't do it anymore.
I am. I don't write anymore, but I am. So, for example, I planned how season 2 is going to end halfway through season 1. I'm not going to tell you. You have to watch it. But I was very, very involved in that. Very involved in kind of the story arcs, but the actual details I'm not involved in anymore. My job is more kind of going out. I do a lot of speaking, a lot of public speaking about the 99. I do a lot of investors and kind of that kind of stuff.
But my question was, would you rather be more involved in the creative process, or do you like your current position? Because as the company grew, I'm sure your responsibilities became different then.
They're very different, but it's still very long hours. Listen, I started this to get back into the writing. I love to write, but it became very clear early on that I was the wrong person to write because I was also paying everybody at the end of the month. And people always liked what I had to write, because guess what? I'm the boss, right? And so when I took myself out of the writing, the stories became so much better. And so I was like, okay, just, you can be the thinker, but don't be the writer.
Okay, we have a question. Okay.
You just said that you don't have any Kuwaitis working for the company. Why is that? And also, would you consider Kuwaiti or Arabic writers?
So on the writers' part, what we do is we work, I wanted the best writers in the world that have done this kind of story before. So those writers are in Hollywood, and they're the writers of Spider-Man and Ben 10 and Star Wars. So that's, if there is a Kuwaiti or an Arab who happens to have those talents, I would love to work with them. But the important thing for me is the talent, not where the person is from.
Wouldn't you want to help in developing such talents in the region, since you're one of the few people that started this in the region?
I can be helpful in connecting people to the right people. I lecture at the medical school, right? So I have 3 times a year I have a group of students from the medical school that I give a creative writing course to. So I'm involved like that where I can, where it doesn't make my life crazy. Best to be kind of I know some good resources, like Abu Dhabi is doing a great job with that, but that's government-backed initiative to create that kind of talent, because it's a long-term investment. That's not something that we have the bandwidth for. But I mean, if there's an initiative like that that's sponsored, I'd be happy to kind of be involved in it. But it's beyond our ability to handle as a company. Well, and why not Kuwaitis? I mean, the jobs in Kuwait are basically, back office. ما عندي شيء. There's no. We do have Kuwaiti interns that we do, from AUK, from different places that come and spend months together from different places. Kuwait Fund had a intern معنا, so we've had that. But that's the limit.
Does anybody want an intern at Teshkeel?
Okay, go on.
Dr. Naif, are you still having fun?
Great questions. I can honestly say I love what I do. I love what I do very, very much. I try to limit the fun I have. Though. I'll give you an example. So the Jahra theme park, when it opened, it's been open for 4 years now. We have between 300 and 350,000 visitors a year. It's not Disneyland, but it's more than 10% of the population, right? I've been there maybe 5 times. That's it. Because when I go there, it feels too good, and then I don't work. So I'm more of somebody that's kind of very just driven by stress and kind of work and wanting to achieve and like that. And so, I love what I do. I want to be doing what I do for the rest of my life. But now, kind of the game is what we're trying to do is we're trying to position ourselves to be part of something bigger. Because when I first started saying I'm going to create IP from the region and go global, it sounded a bit crazy, but it's possible. Different places in the region have tried that. Couldn't do it. We did it with a fraction of what they spent on it. So now we're kind of keeping our eyes and ears open for entities that are interested in we have a management team that's been together for 10 years now. We have content that's been seen by millions, and there's more of that stuff in me if I'm in the right environment. The 99 is the second character universe I create. The first one I did in my mid-20s, but it's a more than a full-time job, kind of managing 99 kids, right? So.
Okay, thank you. So we have 5 more minutes, and then we're gonna close up. So, anyone have a yes?
Okay, so you talked about not having fun and being a psychologist, I think, yeah. So, do you really you're stress-driven? You don't get burned out, or?
That's a good question. So, I wish I got burned out. I'm one of those people that just kind of needs different stuff to kind of keep happy and keep busy. I can't the reason I have 3 master's degrees is because where I was doing my doctorate, they didn't have summer school, and because of my scholarship, I couldn't work, and I wasn't going to sit on my hand for 4 months every summer, right? So I did more degrees. For me, I like to learn. I like to read. I like to kind of connect ideas together. And the psychologist fund, I opened my clinic here in Kuwait actually 4 years ago. I have 27 psychologists working for me here. And that was a fun governmental exercise for a year, paying rent without seeing any clients because I went to, for the Ras Al Mal that we had to give them the money. My partner was sick, actually he passed away before the clinic opened, Dr. Jaffa, so I wrote the check, and then I went back to go back a couple weeks later to the ministry to finish the work. And the guy there said, no, sorry, you did it wrong. You guys have to both transfer half the amount from your respective bank accounts into the account. I said, he's sick. They said, you still have to do it. I said, fine. Can I get my check back? They said, no, it's in the account. It's frozen. I said, okay. So we both transferred half the amount into this bank account. So I went back a couple weeks later. They said, no, sorry, you're giving wrong information. You each have to prove you have half the amount in your accounts. I said, what is there to prove? You have double the amount in the account, right? We went through this a month, and I thought, I was paying rent at the location. I didn't do the small hawali thing, which was crazy, because I didn't have the bandwidth to think about, I'm going to open it here and then move it here. But it was just nuts. But but the clinic's up and running. It's 27 psychologists now. We train Kuwaitis there, for whoever's interested. We've actually graduated 10 master's degrees from there. We didn't do the academic portion, we did the clinical training, because I'm licensed in New York, so I can actually sign off on hours and people can get their credentials in the US, because there's no body here that does that.
Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, first, yeah, and then my last question. Okay.
This is a serious question, and I promise you I won't tweet your answer, but Marvel or DC?
Batman. Batman.
Okay. So my question is I'm gonna close. Is now okay? To me, it's you are a real successful Kuwaiti. So like all of the others, like and what makes you different, like you came up with this idea. I'm gonna call it a crazy idea, but in a good way. So you came up with this crazy idea, and then you made it successful. Now it's like a global company making millions of dollars, employing a lot of people, adding value to everyone, and like we have queries like just like hitting the wall with the government and like complaining we don't have money. The government is against us, no one is helping us, and they're just complaining, without really doing something that's gonna be like as big as this. So what is like your advice for these kind of entrepreneurs?
You know, when I first started, I kept being pushed to say, "Do you ask any Sharia scholars about what you're doing?" And I used to avoid that question like the plague. And then when I got, you know, if I get cornered, I say, "Well, I spoke to Emo Phillips." And they said, "We don't know Sheikh Phillips." So that's a good thing because he's a comedian, he's not a sheikh. And so what do you mean? So what Emo Phillips used to say that every night to the age of 10, he used to pray to God for a bicycle. And then at 10, he realized that God didn't work that way. So he stole the bicycle and started praying for forgiveness. Right? So my advice to entrepreneurs here is don't ask for permission. Ask for forgiveness. Just do it.
Yeah.
Because those obstacles are there. I mean, my comment when I opened the clinic, I said, well, the good news is we won't have any competition until 2072. It took forever to open it, right? So if you kind of can persevere, I'd just do it.
Well, thanks a lot. Thank you very much for your time.
Before we leave, just 30-second announcement. First of all, thank you very much to Naif. Thank you to Aziz. And just a couple quick things. Takeaways. One, Dr. Naif was very opportunistic. Okay. When he had to get on the plane, he got on the plane. And when he knew President Obama was going to reach out to the Islamic world, he already decided to reach back. So as entrepreneurs, this is a very, very good quality to have. Be very opportunistic as much as you can. That's number one. Number two, don't let, oh, somebody might steal my intellectual property excuse come in. He didn't let it happen. You know, he could have been very worried, he could have lawyered up and just basically wasted the initial phase of his plan on just kind of working out the IP rights. But he didn't. You know, he went straight to work and he proved that his concept works. And he did it with very little money initially, at least compared to his competitors. So that's two great takeaways I think you can take from Dr. Naif's speech, in addition to the many other guys have been paying attention very well. Thank you very much for coming. I will ask you to, everybody here has to either tweet us, email us, or write on our blog and tell us two things. One, how can we make this better for you guys? And two, what do you want to hear about? What topic do you want to hear about at our next meetup in January? I want everybody here to do that. We want to keep this kind of focused towards what you guys want to hear and want to discuss, and now about what we want to present to you. So thank you very much for coming in. Everybody get on their phones now, and please tweet, email, or leave comments on our blog.
If I can just one thing, I have to run. I'd love to stay, but I have to run because of a car accident that I have to go deal with now. But that's me on Twitter. My email is my first name Naif at the99.org, and it's my email. Nobody else gets that. So I'm happy to chat about anything you guys want to. So at the99.org. Okay, and our Facebook page is /the99 fan page. Love to have you guys on there if you want to watch cartoons. Okay, thank you. Hayatullah. Take care.
Thank you very much.
انت استخدم
يعني اعتبر نفسه نوعا ما هو اللي قال لي انا حتى بجيب الجماعه قال والله
اي والله هذا
اوه كيفتك جديد
اي احنا ان شاء الله ترى لازم نسولف عشان نضبط ان شاء الله يعطيكم العافيه.